Hello and welcome again back to the Parent Playing Video Game Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about A Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. First off, I just want to say thank you again for coming back, and also apologize. It has been, I think the last post on Instagram was like 31 weeks ago. My bad. Pretty much a lot of things, life has happened. We'll get into that in a little bit there. But I'm back. I'm really happy to be back. It's a little weird, a little, rusty, so to speak. But we'll get right into it and talk about this great game. So, as I said, it has been a while. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned last time we bought a new house, and it's been great, and we moved in around October time, and it's been fantastic. Love the house, super settled in. Obviously, Christmas has passed. Had a great Christmas, especially first one in this house. We actually hosted Christmas, which was the first time we ever did it, and that was a lot of fun. Very busy, but a lot of fun. So got to do that. Been doing a bunch of projects around the house, like setting up the garage with stuff and more. I guess I set up the basement for like my area, which is where I am recording right now. And yeah, it's just been very nice to be in this house. It's been great. And again, apologizing for being so long since the previous episode. I'm really hoping to kind of get back in the groove, can continue on, and just chat about playing games, being a dad, and all that fun stuff. On to what I've been playing. Now, there's been a lot of things that I've been playing since October, so I'm not going to be able to get into all of that, of course. I do have a handful of things that I want to mention. One of them actually was I was playing for a while Diablo Immortal on mobile, on my phone. It was actually a lot of fun. And it felt like a pretty full-featured game. I didn't, sink too much money into it. Maybe like $10-15, a little cosmetic here and there. But then I just kind of didn't want to continue playing it kind of thing. It was too much of a commitment. I was just kind of looking for something fun. And I enjoyed it while it lasted for sure. And then I went on to Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster. So I wanted a Pixel Remaster since they first came out and finally got around to getting them. And I've been really enjoying it. 6 is one of my favorite games. I believe it was episode 2 in the list of games that I've done, and I'm clicking through to see if I can find out if it was indeed episode 2. Oh, I can't open this file. You know what? Let's call it episode 2. It was episode something. We've talked about it. With that, we also have been playing Nintendo Switch Sports, mainly the bowling, because my now almost 3-year-old son is ridiculously good at it. He gets more strikes than me most of the time. Don't get me wrong, he gets a couple gutter balls, but there was a couple rounds where he actually beat both me and my wife. I'm not saying I'm a fantastic bowler in real life or on the game, but I thought I would be better than a 3-year-old, but apparently not. So he's been loving it, having a lot of fun with that for sure. We set it up in the main living room, so he's been playing, wanting to play more of it, of course, right? So video games are great. And then for the last, it's March 12th now, so for the last 13 or so days, I have been very much into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Ooh, oh my gosh, that is a really good game. I'm really enjoying it, and I really think I'll be playing it after I finish this. We'll see. Hopefully there's enough time in the night, but tons of fun on that. I have had nothing but fun sort of thing. So I'm not super far into it, I believe, but taking my time, enjoying it. I guess I'll just continue playing, and it would be nice to kind of do I don't know about 100% run on it, but I'm really enjoying that. I'm enjoying it so much that I feel like I can, go through it. It's similar to the first one, I think, where you can revisit the chapters. So I'll go through and then I'll go back and collect items, things that maybe I missed in the first place, just play some more. But yeah, as I said, really been enjoying that. And many other games since October, as I said. So we'll probably play more of Rebirth I don't think I'm going to play much else until the next episode of PPVG. Now let's talk about the game of the hour, the game of the episode. We're talking about Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Released way back, 1991, November. This is going to be considered my favorite Zelda game. I've not beaten a huge amount. I actually went through the list in my head quite some time ago, but thinking about it now, I'm pretty sure I've only played maybe, I'd say, between a half to 2/3 of Zelda games, and I've only beaten a handful of the ones that I played. They just, I don't know, especially the newer ones, I'm like, they don't really super click with me, but especially Link to the Past, that is, it's a classic memory that I have way back from when I was a kid, of course, playing the game. It's first Zelda game for myself, and my brother and I both really enjoyed it. I think it holds a special place in his heart as well. So it did the classic Super to the NES version, which I will be honest, I have tried playing NES Zelda, the original one, many times, and I'm so used to kind of like the I guess the quality of life improvements that the Super Nintendo version did, and then of course since then Ocarina of Time and all the others after Breath of the Wild, all that. So I think for me it's hard to play the Nintendo version because I'm so used to the good things. I really wish that they would do a remake of it, kind of like Link's Awakening on the Switch. That one actually, fantastic game. Got that and played through the whole thing. I think I even 100% of that game. That was a while ago when it first came out, but I really did enjoy that game as well. And I think if they were able to do a remake of the original one in that style or some other style, something where they did a remake and just gave us a bunch of quality of life things, I think I would probably quite enjoy it. But yeah, it's tough. So never really jived with me. And then I'll just quickly mention this, another game of this Zelda that I quite liked, which was A Link Between Worlds. Maybe in one day in the future I'll do an episode on that one, but that's actually a sequel. It's set in the same world, but it's like got a different twist on the story. And it's a 3DS game, which one is challenging to play nowadays unless you have physical hardware, but then two, it used the 3D, not necessarily the 3D like visuals that you get on the 3DS, but 3 dimensions on a 2D plane in the first place. But again, that's for another episode. This one, Link to the Past, fantastic game. So let's just, I guess, jump right into it. So as we jump right into it, first is the story, our first part. So you are a young boy named Link, not Zelda, funny enough. That is a common misconception, getting those two mixed up. So, Link wakes up to a message from Zelda, and he follows his uncle to the castle in the rain. And, of course, as always, spoilers, we're in 2024. My slow math tells me that it's 33 years old. So, plenty of time to play the game. Is super popular. Anyway, so yeah, Link wakes up, follows his uncle in the castle, or to the castle in the rain. He finds the uncle. Uncle's already been defeated. Like, come on, man. It's been like 2 minutes. How did you already fail? Either way, he gives you a sword and shield. Now, I don't know how old Link is in this. Of course, the visuals on the Super Nintendo back in the day, couldn't really, see it too well, but he definitely does not look like an adult. And when you look at like the concept art of the game, he definitely looks like a child. Like, I'd say, I don't know how old kids are other than my own. I don't know, maybe like 10, 11? Why is a 10 or 11-year-old getting a sword and a shield? Like, that's, again, not a responsible guardian. Nonetheless, you continue on. You want to rescue the princess, but you need to do a few things. So when you get the princess out of this little area, you save her from the jail cell, you get her out, but then eventually she just gets kidnapped again. What a surprise, right? Like Nintendo's storytelling back then, princess kidnapped, go get her, yay, princess kidnapped, go get her, rinse, repeat. So she does get captured again. So there's a few things you need to do. First, you have to find 3 pendants, and they're in different sort of dungeons in the world. Once you get the 3 pendants, you can then pull the Master Sword out. It works with the hero, which is Link, of course. And once you have the Master Sword, you can defeat the evil wizard named Aghanim. Let's call it. I don't know exactly. As he wants to release Ganon from the Dark World. And that's actually something really cool about this game, quick, is that there is the Light World, and then there is the Dark World. Very similar physically, but completely changes. Like, the enemies are different. It's harder in the Dark World. That's kind of like later in the game. But it's cool because you can actually go back and forth with an item we'll talk about in a little bit. So Ganon, who is a super bad guy, wants to get, or Aghanim wants to release him. Link eventually defeats Aghanim, but shoot, it's too late. Zelda has been sent to the Dark World. Link, of course, in a sense, chases after her, gets into the Dark World. You have to release 7 sages who also are in dungeons. What a surprise. Once you release your 7 sages, you can then defeat Ganon, and then Link wishes from the Triforce, which we'll get into in a minute as well, to have everyone back to life who died and free everyone from the Dark World. He wishes for world peace. He is quite literally the definition of Miss America on what they want. World peace. So quickly on the Triforce is made up of 3 triangles, which makes a bigger triangle. And I don't have it in my notes, so I'm going to kind of go off my knowledge here. So there's courage, power, and wisdom. So Link has courage, Ganon has power, Zelda has wisdom. So hence why when Link defeats Ganon, he completes the Triforce, and then it pretty much gives you whatever you want. It's kind of like a genie of sorts. Probably not really like Genie One Wish. Nonetheless, that's the story of the game. So fairly simple, as I said, princess gets captured, rescue her, bring peace to the world. It's not the worst story, it's also not the most engaging story, but it totally works in this situation. To aid you in your journey and upon the story, you're going to have several things of equipment. We'll go through these in a little more detail, but we have swords, shields, tunics, actions, also called do in the game, and then items. Items is the biggest one for sure, but we'll start off with swords because swords are fun. It just is more fun. So we first have the fighter sword. That's given from Uncle, whatever his name is, Uncle guy who can barely even fight one monster. So you get that from him. The Master Sword, once you get those 3 pendants, you yank it out of stone, and it's the Master Sword. It is the iconic sword in history. One thing that's really cool with this is that when you're at full life and you attack, it does like a beam of energy. It goes pew, pew, kind of shoots it out at enemies. So actually kind of nice, gives you a ranged attack, but as soon as you take even a little bit of damage, you lose that. It is what it is. Next one you have on the swords is tempered. It's a couple dwarven blacksmiths. They help make this, and it changes the sword to red. And then golden sword is gold. I remember calling it the butter sword, probably because it looks like golden butter, like margarine or whatever. It's the most powerful sword you get, and it makes a cool like kind of noise. I don't know if that comes through very well. It makes a cool noise when you swing it. It's a little bit more deeper kind of thing. A great compliment to swords is shields, right? So you get the fighter shield right from the beginning, given by Uncle, gives it up after one attack. Next one we have is the fire shield, which honestly, never really liked the look of this. It's like a circle, it's red, it's got like gold or yellow, like inscription on it. I always thought it looked kind of lame, straight up, not gonna lie. But it does protect you against some projectiles. So there's a lot of enemies that like shoot little I don't know what you would call it. Like they look almost like a trail of like 4 red bubbles, whatever it is. Those ones this shield can protect you against. Super handy. And the nice thing is the shield is always out. So you don't have to, hold a button to have your shield up. It's just always there. You always have it in front of you. And then the final shield is the mirror shield, and that one protects against lasers, which from what I remember, is only in the dungeon where you get the mirror shield and maybe one other. It's super rare. You don't have that many lasers in the game. But it also protects against the other projectiles. So it's like, let's call them fire bubbles. I don't know. Now, sword shields, last thing on that part is tunics. So armor, right? The green one, that's what you wear. You wake up in this. You don't wake up in pajamas. You wake up in your normal garb. I don't know. It's weird. It's like waking up in jeans. It doesn't make any sense. So, and then really all that changes on this, they change to blue, reduces your damage by 50%. Red reduces damage by 75%. They're simple. I like the different colors, to be honest with you. I would say blue is probably my favorite color of the three, if I had to choose. But again, I mean, I'm gonna go with red because, you know, most amount of damage reduced, right? Let's go to the good stuff. We have actions. Actions, as I said, are the do in the game. I feel like that's kind of one of those classic, you know, Japanese to English translation things. I don't know for sure, but what they call do on the pause menu kind of is weird. They're just actions. But we got 4 of these ones. So Pegasus boots, these ones are great. You hold down the button and he goes and then shoots forward. He like runs and he sticks his sword out, which is super handy because you can do this and go between screens on the game and run across places really quick. And if an enemy gets in the way, you kind of just bonk them out of the way. So very handy because it gives you a much quicker and you can do some damage and you don't get hit as well. All good things. The other cool thing with that is that some walls will be cracked. You can run into them and it actually makes a hole in the wall to get to like a secret area. Super handy. As soon as you get that, you start just bonking into everything. It's great. We have the Power Glove and Titan's Mitt, which is a pretty much better version of the Power Glove. There are some rocks in the game on the overworld. They're like a light gray. They're kind of one tile big. And then there's bigger light gray rocks that are 4 tiles, kind of like a little square. So you're able to, on the Power Glove, lift up the lighter rocks, and then the Titan's Mitt, there's darker rocks, which are same shape and size, just darker. That's where the Titan made. So that one there, there's a lot of rocks in the game where kind of is a barrier. It's almost like, I know that this is not a Metroidvania, but there's aspects to it. Because I mean, a Metroidvania, one of the biggest things is that you get to, you know, you go to this place over here, you see, oh, there's a wall. I can't get through it. And then you progress through the game, you get more items, and you're like, oh, I can get past that wall now. Or I can jump over this big ravine with another item. So that's where the kind of, they're able to block off certain areas till you get these more powerful items, and then you can go to more areas, you know. So it definitely has that what's the word, mechanic, I guess, to it. Then we have Zora's Flippers. Normally you go into deeper water. Again, there's 2 colors of water, like 2 colors of rocks. So there's the light blue, which is shallow. You can, you know, walk on it. It's like, you know, ankle deep. It's not too bad. And then there's the darker water, which who knows how deep it is. As soon as you go in, you just blink back onto the shore or onto the light blue water, unless you have the Zora Flippers. And then you get to be your dolphin self. You get to swim and dive. You know, you can't dive in this game. You just get to swim around and, you know, again, same sort of thing as the gloves, access different areas. Finally, on the do items is the Moon Pearl. So when you go to the Dark World, normally anyone that's in the Dark World becomes, again, not in my notes, think it becomes what your heart truly shows you as. So a lot of people who have evil in their hearts become monsters. When Link goes to the Dark World, he becomes a cute little pink bunny, which, as cute and great as it is, because Link is pure and he's just only good, completely useless. No sword, no shield, can't use any items, just runs around as a cute little bunny. So not very useful if you want to save the princess. The Moon Pearl allows Link to go to the Dark World and stay as Link. It's as simple as it is. Again, very, you know, the Metroidvania mechanic of like, hey, you need this to progress further in the game. You don't have it, ain't gonna work. So, yeah. Again, Moon Pearl, even though it doesn't let you do anything, without it, you can't do anything in the game. So, Our next list is the big one, is items. So these are the ones where you collect things and you can use them. There's a few favorites in here. There's some that are somewhat useless and some that are 100%. I don't think I've ever really used them, and I've played this many, many times. So the first one is lamp. Who doesn't love lamp? Let's be honest. So you get to light up braziers. So if there's a little, brazier fire bucket thingy that can hold fire, you can walk up to it, press it, and lights it on fire. Lights up the whole room, and it can damage enemies, but not super great about that. So we have the bow. It's a bow, so lets you shoot arrows. You have some ammunition, pew pew kind of thing, right? So nice to get to do some range damage before you get the Master Sword. And then even when you have the Master Sword, as I said, if you take damage, the bow can kind of help you still do some damage ranged. And then with the bow at the very, very end of the game, as I always say, spoilers, blah, 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 you get the silver arrows, and that one is actually required to defeat Ganon. Without that, you can't do damage in sort of like final form. So very important for the bow and silver bow. Or sorry, silver arrows. Bombs go boom. The really cool thing with bombs is that they also open up some walls or crack some floors. The Pegasus boots will open up one type of crack, and sometimes, and they're different shapes. I can't really describe it necessarily on the podcast, but if you saw it, you'd see that they're clearly different. So the bombs open up certain walls, and they can damage enemies as well. So there is one bomb. It's like I think it's called Mega Bomb or Super Bomb, something like that. It's huge, and it actually walks behind you. You need that to gain access to a very special location near the end of the game. So that one's fun. But again, you only get one of those, and you have to keep it with you. I mean, if you lose it, you can go back and get another one, but it's only used in one place. Let's put it that way. So we have the Boomerang and Magic Boomerang. Magic Boomerang, similar to the gloves, it's just a better version. I think it goes faster and further. But, I mean, it's a boomerang. You can become the Australian that you've always wanted to, and you throw a boomerang out, it stuns enemies and comes back to you. Very straightforward, but again, I'll be honest, I am not the greatest at this game. Even though I've played it, I would say, I don't know, at least 10, maybe 12 times kind of thing over the years, I still am not very good at the game. I still enjoy it, but I'm not very good at it. The boomerang really helps because it stuns enemies, and then I can go up and whap them with the sword. Without the stun, you have to be fairly accurate kind of thing to hit, and I'm just not that great at it, but that's fine. That's fine. We have the net that's next. This is one of those semi-useless items. It can catch bugs, but it can also catch fairies, which, I mean, I guess that's nice. A fairy, once you catch it, and if you have a bottle, which you can have 4 of in the game, you can store it in a bottle. If you die, then the fairy comes out and goes around you and gives you, I think it's like 7 of your hearts back. If you have like 12 hearts, which you can have 20 in total, if you have 12, you'll only get 7. So it's kind of like a second life or a revive kind of thing. So versus if you don't have anything, it's just kind of like game over, start at the beginning of the dungeon, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, the net, yeah, I guess. Yeah, okay, maybe it's not semi-useless. Maybe it's just semi-useful. Let's put it that way. The hook shot, that one is my personal favorite. This one's really cool. So it can do several things. First one, it can also stun enemies, and it is very quick. It just shoots out straight. Whereas the boomerang can it does go straight, but it can kind of bend around things kind of weird. A little bit more difficult for me to manage, but hookshot goes out straight, stuns an enemy, comes right back. It also is used in many places in dungeons and around the overworld that you can actually pull yourself to certain types of blocks. So like I mentioned earlier, there's a bridge that you need to get across, and there's 2 posts, one on either side. You can hook shot to those posts, so you can get across the ravine and back, kind of thing. So that, on that part, as well as many other places, can be used. Mushroom is a kind of a one-time item. You find it, and you have to get back to a witch before it kind of expires. If it kind of goes bad, she'll not really want it. But if you give it to her, she makes magic powder. That one is, uh, again, it's not semi-useless per se. It's semi-useful, I would say. It's used in just a few different situations for me that I remember. There's certain enemies that you cannot damage with anything whatsoever, but if you're able to fling the powder on it, it turns into a fairy. But these enemies can hit you pretty hard, and I think they drain your magic power. I can't remember for sure on that, but they still hit hard and they are fairly quick. So flinging this powder on them is a little tricky because it's very close range, but the reward is quite good. You get a fairy out of it, right? So if you're a little low on health, it might be worth that risk of reward. And then you can use it, I think, on one other place to make your, in a sense, your magic double, but it's very deceptive. It looks like your magic has been halved, but really what it is how much everything costs has been halved. So in a sense, you're doubling your magic power. We have a fire rod, shoots out fire. Ice rod, shoots out ice. Pretty straightforward. Fire rod is really handy, does a good amount of damage from a distance, but it does chew through your magic power pretty quickly. Ice rod's cool because similar to the hook shot and boomerang. It shoots out the ice and can freeze them, so it stuns enemies. So again, can be useful in certain situations. Are used more in dungeons for puzzles than it is for me for actually fighting kind of thing. Magic hammer. This one is just a little hammer bonk. Can do some damage. It can knock down fence posts, like squish them down, and it can flip over certain enemies, so you can actually attack them with regular attacks, either the sword or bow or something like that. The hammer is used on turtles, which is kind of mean, but hey, they're coming at you. You got to do what you got to do to survive. You hammer them and they flip over and it exposes their little underbelly. So yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Flute is a very useful item. It's pretty much your fast travel. When you play it, technically it's a bird, but it looks like a duck to me. But he flies, picks you up, and I think there's 7 or 8 different places in the world, so it kind of gives you a world map, and he can place you in one of those places. So super nice to get around. If you need to go back and forth from one dungeon to another, if you need to, go back to get some more items from the town because let's say you ran out of bombs or something, you can go to the shops in the town quick. It's fast travel, just very handy, right? So there's a Book of Medora. It's used to translate ancient language, and it can get you items or into places. So there's actually a dungeon which requires this. You need to actually use it, and it kind of rotates things around and lets you in. Without the Book of Medora, can't get in. Well, maybe with glitches or whatever, but anyway, normally you cannot get in. And then it does allow you to get 3 kind of large screen-filling magic attacks, which we'll talk about in a minute. Without the Book of Medora, you can't decipher sort of the tablets that sort of teach you what those spells are. So again, it's required, so it's very important, but once you use it for that, you don't really need it again. You can get a shovel. You get to, dig anywhere where there's grass, pretty much. There's a digging game where you can, I believe you get a heart piece or something like that, where you can get that and get some rupees, which is the, currency in the game. And that's actually how you find the flute. So while the shovel itself, not that great, very important because it gets you the flute, which is great to have. So important nonetheless. The next 2 are definitely on the not even sort of useless, but to me completely useless, other than one of them for dungeon, and the other one not at all, really. So it's the Cane of Samaria and the Cane of Burna. So Samaria creates blocks that can hold down switches, and then when you press it again, it kind of shoots out fire in the 4 directions, up, down, left, right. And then the Cane of Burna protects Link with a spinning barrier. I don't believe I have ever used the Cane of Burna, ever. The Cane of Samaria I use when it's needed, and then other than that, I never use it. Now, I could be playing the game wrong. As I said, I'm honest. I'm not the best at the game, but I don't know, man. Like, I don't really know what it's used for, so. Magic Cape. This one's a good one. Again, more so on the dungeons and trying to figure out, puzzles and things like that. So this one turns Link invisible and allows you to go through spikes and some other obstacles. So as I said, so for some dungeons and for some puzzles, yeah, you need to do this. But yeah, actually, that's it. Yeah. So I mean, again, like some of these items you need to get to kind of do the 100%ing if you want to collect all the items in the game. I can think of one. I can't remember what the item is, but to get to it, you need the magic cape because it's a huge sort of maze of spikes, which I don't even know if you can make it through with full health kind of thing. Like I think you need this. It's that far and the spikes do that much damage. So magic mirror. Now this is obviously very well, not obviously because I'm about to tell you why. It is required in the game because it helps you go from the dark world back to light. There are some portals throughout the game. Actually, sorry, that's a lie. There's portals in the light world to go to the dark world, but going from dark to light, I actually don't know if there is one. So I think, yeah, you need this to get back, to the light world. Otherwise, you're stuck in the dark world forever. It also is a really cool mechanic in dungeons if you use it. It just takes you to the beginning of the dungeon. So if, let's say, for an example, I can't remember which dungeon number it is, but when you first enter the dungeon, you can kind of go up or down. So you go down, go all the way down, get that, and instead of having to climb all the way back up, you can just use the mirror to get back to the beginning to just kind of keep going. So kind of nice quality of life kind of thing. Or same thing, you can use it and then leave the dungeon to, get more items, or if you're, want to try something else, whatever it may be. And then the next three are the medallions. These are those big screen filling magics. So there's Ether, which is a lightning strike across the whole screen, Quake, which is a shockwave, and Bombos, which is explosions across the whole screen. These ones I very rarely use, to be honest with you. I kind of forget that they exist. I really only use like a handful of items in the game on the main overworld kind of thing. I can't remember if any of these are required for any items, or if these are the ones, it's just kind of to fill it up. Bombos is nice. You can do that. It does a large amount of damage across any enemy that you'd see on the screen. So kind of a almost like a summon in Final Fantasy games kind of thing. It's like it's a large cost, but it can help you out in a pinch for sure. So, and then finally, the last item are the bottles. And as I mentioned earlier, you can have a total of 4. It can hold things like the fairies. It can also hold potions, so health potions, magic potions, and then I think there's a potion that does both. It gives you health and magic, and then you can also hold bugs and bees. And I think there's a golden bee in the game that kind of hovers around you and helps you out, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Either way, bottles allow you to hold all sorts of things. Now I want to talk about the dungeons in the game. So as I mentioned earlier, there's those 3 pendants and 7 sages. So the 3 pendants are in the light world. There's 3 dungeons, and the 7 sages in the dark world, 7 dungeons. So we're just going to go through them, tell you what they are, what item you get there, and kind of, an idea of what the boss looks like. If there's anything fun, I'll talk about it. I kind of want to sort of quickly go through them. So our first one here is the Eastern Palace. It is in the east, obviously. Very straightforward. It kind of gets you an idea of like how dungeons work and what there is in there kind of thing, but still not like a face roll or a cake roll or any other kind of roll, maybe a cinnamon roll. It's still not easy. Again, maybe that's just me and how I play the games, but you get the bow here. That's kind of your first main item. You get the lamp when you wake up, and the sword and all this. Anyway, you get the bow here as your first dungeon item. How about that? And then there's 6 jumping knights that you need to kill with it. So, pretty straightforward. Shoot, boom, there you go. Then you get one of your pendants. The next place you're going to go to is the Desert Palace. Whoops. It's sandy. Who likes sand? It gets everywhere. It's just not great. And then you get one of the gloves here. I believe it's the something mitt. You know what? Power glove. There you go. Titan mitt is the bigger one. So yeah, you get the power glove here. So, where are we? Oh, sorry. The boss on this one's a burrowing snake. Kind of cool actually. A little bit of a challenge, and placing yourself is a good one on this one. Gets you good practice for the third boss, which we'll get to in a second. But it kind of, the snake kind of starts coming out. You have to place yourself and give it a whap on the sword kind of thing. The glove, you're not going to do anything to hurt the boss because, well, it just helps you lift up things. This one also pretty straightforward. Some cool little mechanics in it. There's like, not whirlpools. I guess maybe like quicksand where enemies pop out of. No, that one's kind of cool. They kind of appear out of nowhere. Third dungeon to get the last pendant. This one I actually kind of, I think, was the example I used with the magic mirror, where you can go up and down. You don't actually get the mirror in this one, so you can't really warp back up. You do get the moon pearl. I think it's as is a tower. It's like, I think maybe like 3 levels below and like 6 above kind of thing. So it's tight because it's not, wide open spread kind of thing. So there's many floors, all sorts of different puzzles to them. This one though, the boss is a rattlesnake thing. But what's really tough about this boss is that the arena that you fight him in has a hole in the middle and no walls. And if you get pushed off the edge, you go down 1 floor, have to come back up and start the fight over. But any damage he did to you, of course, you keep. It's definitely a challenging boss. I did learn, and thanks for speedruns on this, some good strategies to kill it with the spin attack with the sword, which I didn't mention, but when you hold down your attack button, you hold it, it charges up after about a second or so, and then when you let go, Link does a big spin. It super handy for fighting off anything that's coming at you. It kind of gives you a circle of protection while also damage and pushes them away. But you actually have to attack its rattle. So as it comes at you, if you time it right and you like position it right, it'll come at you and then it'll turn at the last minute and its tail follows behind. Do the spin attack, do that a couple times, and done, and then you have snake dinner. Again, that one definitely was a hard one when I was younger. Now it's still a challenge, but I definitely have figured out, the strats, how you would say. Once you've done that one, now of course you have the third pendant. With all 3 pendants, you can go to get the Master Sword, go to the Dark World, so on and so forth. And because you have the Moon Pearl from the Tower of Hera, you're not a bunny rabbit anymore. You're Mr. Link, ready to go. So now, as I said, in the Dark World, the first place you're going to go to is going to be the Dark Palace. Same place as the Eastern one, just now it's dark. It's bigger than the Light World Palaces. All the Dark World ones are much bigger. And in here, you get the Magic Hammer. This one's cool. The boss, there's actually a few ways to actually defeat the boss, and a lot of Zelda games kind of follow the same formula, is that the item you get in the dungeon happens to be the item you use to defeat the boss. In this case, the magic hammer. A big cat has a metal mask. You go up and you hit the mask with the hammer and it starts chipping it away, reveals like a gem in the middle of its eyes, and then that's what you're going to attack. And there you can use the bow, you can use your sword, you can use bombs, things like that. But I think as well, bombs will also break away the metal mask. So there's almost a couple options, I guess, where you can, change it up. If you're having a hard time with the hammer, which you have to get close to hit him, the bombs, because you can drop it and throw them, they may be a little bit more of a safer strategy kind of thing. But you do have a limited amount of bombs, right? So, pros and cons. So. Swamp Palace. This one here is really cool. To get into it, you actually have to do something in the light world that affects the dark world. So specifically, there in the light world, there's a small... it's the same entrance to the Swamp Palace as it is in the light world. But in the light world, all it is kind of a... not a dam, but something... I can't remember. I don't really know how to describe it. Pretty much you go into this little building, you push a lever, it opens up these big doors, and all the water floods into this building. You leave outside, the little lake that was around it is gone, and then when you go into the dark world, now the lake is still gone, and you then go into the dark palace or the swamp palace, and you're able to swim to the next area and continue on with the dungeon. So really neat mechanic that what you do in the light world does reflect in the dark world as well. This dungeon is actually a really cool one. I quite like it. And of course, you get the hook shot. That's beautiful hook shot. The boss is kind of gross. It's almost like a collection of, I want to say, wet, gross, puffy things around a squid. And he'll spin them around. So what you do is you use the hook shot, it pulls a puff to you, hit it with the sword. Hook shot, hit it with a sword, so on and so forth. And then eventually the squid thing kind of like runs around or slides around, scurries around. The arena, you hit it and then poof, it's done. Get another sage. Skullwoods. This one is cool. So in the area where you actually find the Master Sword in the light world, in the dark world are these woods. They're very spooky. They definitely I mean, they're spooky because the trees are all dead and there's a bunch of giant bones, almost like snake bones, like the rib cage that you're walking through. So it's a little scary. It has a few different places, entrances, exits for the dungeon itself. So that makes it actually a really challenging one to kind of get my head wrapped around. But again, you get in there, you eventually make your way through it, and you get the fire rod. Has a giant moth on a moving floor, which changes directions, with spikes around the wall, which also come at you. It is a pretty hectic fight, but you get the fire rod. The fire rod's actually a pretty good weapon in this fight, even though it does chew through your magic power. It definitely can take down the moth quite quickly if you have enough, but even if you don't, it takes down its health most of the time, and then you kind of finish it off, sort of thing. Gargoyle's Domain, that one is next. So this one is in the town Kakariko in the light world. In the dark world, I think it's called Thieves Town. It's pretty much a sketchy kind of place. Kind of like a place that, I'm not going to say it because I might offend one of the people that I know listens to this, in an area in the city that I live in. So in this one, you're able to access it in the middle of town. Kind of goes into, it's actually a gargoyle statue. You go in. It's a bit of a maze. You find the better glove. That's the Titan's mitt here. And then you just find a random lady in prison. So you're like, okay, well, let's get out of here. So you take her, she follows you. It's kind of like an escort quest, but you're not stuck behind someone going super slow. She's following behind you. You get her outside, and then all of a sudden you're on your own. That's odd. So you go back in, and she doesn't come out. Like, well, that's strange. You actually, this one really neat mechanic. The lady hates light because she's actually the boss of the dungeon. I know. Good twist. So you get her into a room where there's a bit of light in the middle. You put her in there, and she turns into this ghost thing that has heads that fly off, shoot lasers at you. By the time you get to the sort of final phase of it, it gets pretty hectic. But yeah, that one's neat. I'm trying to think of how I would have remembered or known to do that as a kid, to lead her to the light. You know what? If you talk to people in the town or something like that, it probably, leads you to that, is my guess. Next, Ice Palace. Who likes ice? I mean, ice is fine. It's slippery. Like, no one really likes ice puzzles. But there are some cool puzzles in this one because of the ice. It kind of it creates a neat mechanic. It isn't as bad as the classic water temple in Ocarina of Time, where it's just a slog to get through. But yeah, you're slipping and sliding all over the place. So it definitely makes what I already find movement difficult in this game, just because, again, it's just I'm not that great at it. It makes it even more difficult. But the fire rod is really good here because there's a lot of icy enemies that just are down in one hit. So yeah, definitely very handy for that. You do get the blue tunic here. So this is a really nice dungeon to complete, because as soon as you do that, now you're taking half damage. Which, I mean, I'll take that every day of the week, right? So you're in a blue you're in a blue dungeon because of the ice. You get the blue tunic. Makes sense. The boss, though, is a block of ice with a puffy eye. Then more comes out of it. I wrote these notes, and I do not recall what this boss looks like off the top of my head now. Nonetheless, it's what I wrote, so that's what we're going to stick with. Use your fire rod on it, and it just melts the boss away. I'm 99% sure, because that, fire beats ice. Alrighty, so we got 2 more dungeons left. So we got Misery Mire. This one is the desert in the light world has now become a mire. It's swampy, it's gross. It's very similar to the Eastern Palace from the aesthetic kind of thing and the style. This is where you get the Cane of Samaria. You use it to get through the dungeon kind of thing. The boss kind of reminds me of the boss that was the Puffs in the Swamp Palace with the hook shot. This one, though, it's kind of just a pile of eyeballs and goo. They pop up, you kill it, and then the big one comes out, shoots some lightning, goes down. You keep killing all the little ones. Eventually, the big one is available to kill, and then there you go. So, now, Turtle Rock. Oh, my notes here. So, Turtle Rock, you do need the Quake magic. Remember I mentioned I wasn't sure if you need it anywhere? So you do need that actually to open up. Now I remember. You do it and it opens up the mouth of... It's actually a giant turtle is what the entrance looks like. And so, yeah, you use that and the Cane of Samaria to actually do it. It's a lot of floating and moving platforms, which make it a bit of a pain, but it just, I guess... Bit of a pain isn't the right way to put it. It's more of like it slows things down a little bit, sort of thing. So it's not a huge deal. Maybe that's why I said it's long as well, is that maybe it's not that much bigger than another dungeon, but because you have to wait for these platforms to move around and they're fairly slow, is where it slows things down. Now the boss on this one is a triple-headed turtle, right? Turtle Rock, turtle. One is fire, one is ice, one is stone. Kill fire with ice, kill ice with fire, and then the final one shoots out like a snake? Sorry, I read that very much like Ron Burgundy. I put a question mark on it. I don't know why. It does that. It kind of like lunges at you kind of thing that you have to, avoid and, attack and all that stuff. So now that is all of the main dungeons complete. So you have your 7 stages done. Now this is kind of the point of the game where if you wanted to, you can just clean up. Go collect every other item in the game. Everything is available for you at this time. And the last main area in the game is Ganon's Tower. Similar to the Tower of Hera, you go all the way up on this. You do get the red tunic here, and there is kind of a mini boss rush with variants of the light world bosses that are in these areas, like one right after another. You get to fight our buddy Aghanim once more. A little bit more difficult of a fight, but nothing really too crazy. You just reflect things back to him and he goes down. And then you come upon the Pig King, Ganon. I always wonder, actually, now to think of it, why Ganon looks like a big pig man thing. I mean, it is what it is. It's the design. So, several phases. Shoot him with the silver arrows, which actually stub him. Give him the old stab. Rinse, repeat. And you get the Triforce and wish upon everyone world peace. The end. So, that is the game. Gameplay, items, equipment, all that fun stuff. And all the dungeons and everything with a little bit of a snippet of each. So we're going to move on to our next section now, which of course is music. So this soundtrack, and I mean the composer as well, it's definitely a popular soundtrack for sure. There are some fantastic songs in this game, but I have a hard time. I don't know what it is. So the composer is Koji Kondo. He's also the composer of Mario, right? And Mario, fantastic music, classic music. But if I were to sit down and be like, yeah, I'm going to listen to video game music just casually in the car, while I'm at work, whatever it may be, I generally never listen to anything Koji Kondo. The music's good, but it's very kind of like when you play the game. It to me is like the music and the game are one kind of thing, whereas other music in a lot of other games, Final Fantasy is a perfect example for many of those. I am like, nah, man, I like the music at any time of the day. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. And funny enough, Super Metroid music, which is very atmospheric, is also in the same boat. So it is kind of interesting that this music, which everyone else loves, I'm like, yeah, it's alright, it's alright. So there are some classics in here which are still great to listen to. right? There's still good music. It's just definitely not my first, second, maybe even third pick kind of thing. The tracks that are in it, we did have the title music at the beginning of the episode. That one there, the twinkle matching up with the Triforce, and then in the video, yeah, so the twinkle matches up with the Triforce as it folds in, and then the master kind of stabs through it when the music comes up big. Really, really cool effect. Next on the list is the Hyrule main theme. Hyrule Field main theme, sorry. This is the Zelda song. This one always pops in my head when thinking of the game. It definitely could be one of my favorite Zelda songs. So, really good, clean, just great adventure music. Next on the list is Dark Golden Land, which is actually the Dark World's main theme. And maybe, is this the Zelda song? It's tough. So, I like both, but you know what? Maybe I do like this one a little bit more, because I think I bop along to it a little bit more. And it is kind of almost like a great adventure, a little bit more gritty than the Light World theme. So I do want to get on to the OC remixes. So as I said, we're in March in the year of 2024. Right now on OC Remix, there are 68 remixes, and that's just this. I didn't count the ones where it's like Legend of Zelda Link to the Past plus something else. This is purely just Link to the Past. So if I were to had to pick one remix, it's probably going to be Am I Evil Dark World. I know that makes no sense, but trust me, when you see the link, you'll see it more. It is a really upbeat version of Dark Golden Land. And then if you listen to it, get to 55 seconds, such a good breakdown on it. And 100%, one of my favorite OC remixes, definitely in the top 10. Now, if I had to pick two remixes, I decided to go a little extra with this one. The next one that I would have is Beige, Fragments of Gold. Really, really close second. And the way it starts is great. And it has a really cool sound of this almost like reverse sound or something to it. Also a remix of Dark Golden Land. So, you know what? Yeah, Dark Golden Land is definitely the Zelda song. At least for me, for sure. On to our time commitment. So as I said earlier, I played through it a bunch. Sometimes I get all the items, sometimes I don't. I usually get it done in 1, maybe 2 settings, maybe 3. Kind of just depends. So I would say for myself, on average, maybe 6 to 8 hours, maybe 10 at the most. And that's just purely from memory. I don't know how long it's been. Actually, I don't remember the last time I played it. It's been a while. But yeah, from my memory, I would say that the nice thing is with this is that you don't need to get all the items, so you can kind of go for a more challenging run when you have less items. Another thing that's really great on this is randomizer. Huge randomizer community. Really, really cool things. I've tried them a few times. I've never beaten one. Maybe I've beaten one. But definitely a challenge. As I said, I'm not the greatest at the game, so the randomizers are definitely more challenging. And then there's a really cool randomizer. It's called SMZ3. So that's Super Metroid Zelda 3. This is the third Zelda, Super Metroid. It actually mixes the games together somehow. It's like voodoo magic. I have no clue. But certain places in each game warp you to the other game. And like, for instance, in Zelda, I could find the Morph Ball for Super Metroid. And in Super Metroid, I could find, the Master Sword for Zelda, and vice versa. Like, you can find any item anywhere in there. And again, like these ones, any randomizer I find is amazing in that you don't soft lock where you get stuck behind somewhere without the item you need. But this one, I have no clue how they did it, but it is really cool. And Speed Gaming Twitch channels, they do a lot of SMZ3 randomizers and races, where a couple of people go and do those. They're really, really cool to see, and seeing some of the strategies on both games, very impressive for sure. On the How Long to Beat, we've got the main story at 15 hours. So my my estimate of that, let's say 6, 8, 10 hours is definitely quicker for sure. But I mean, I wonder what they would consider main story, because the completionist is 17 and a half hours. So for 2.5 hours more, you get all the other items. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what main story versus completionist is, for instance, but yeah. So I guess maybe I do it quicker. Again, I've beaten it many many times, so that probably helps. And then on the speedrun side of things, there are three main categories with a whole bunch of sub categories under each. It's definitely one of the most popular speedruns, up there with Super Metroid, hence probably why they have that SMZ3 randomizer. My preference of the runs is the under the no major glitches category. When you look at some of these like major glitches, they complete the game in minutes, which, I mean, cool technical feat, but as I've always said, I prefer to see more on like 100% runs where I see the whole game and I see the strategies that they put in. But in this one, because no major glitches, you kind of just have little things to get you through it. So the any percent record currently is by someone named Roar at 1 hour 22:56. And 100% is by Zelda at 1 hour 41:07. So about 20 minutes longer to do the 100% to collect all those items. Now, of course, routing and different strategies are going to be quite different. It's not like it's the any percent and then just go collect every other item. They'll have their own routes for sure. And then there's another one that I think is actually really neat, and I believe I've seen little tournaments for anyone with any skill level join, is Master Sword. So pretty much, hey, how to get to the Master Sword as quick as possible. And this one, I did not write the person's name, so I'm going to go quickly find that. While I do that, I'm going to try and tell you what my notes are while clicking around. So fun facts. So yeah, this one is done in 21 minutes and 34 seconds, and it is done also by Error. That is I don't know why I have so much difficulty saying that. But yeah, that one's neat, because I feel like if I wanted to do a speedrun of Zelda, that would be something that I would start with. A really nice category to kind of get into it, because it's not a massive time commitment. As we know, if you are a parent, being able to say, hey, I'm going to go try and speedrun Zelda. If I did 100%, I'm not getting close to 1 hour 41. My first run is probably going to be 3-4 hours at least, right? So it's like, the Master Sword one, my first one, maybe it's going to be an hour and a half. That is palatable. I think that's the right word I'm looking for. That's something that is not easy, but something that is attainable, something that's possible to do, while still being a parent, right? So yeah, if I were to choose one that I would do, Master Sword, but the ones that I like the most are probably any /100, kind of depends on the day sort of thing. We're going to be wrapping it up here soon. But first, we're going to say, well, how kiddable is this game? It's not a bad way to get a kid playing. And I think I've done this before with another game. The big thing is that the viewpoint, I think, would be very helpful. Where, you press up on the D-pad, you move up. Left, right, down. So I think translating that makes it a little bit easier. As I said, my son's almost 3 now, and I mean, he's definitely interested in video games, which, hits me in the heart, So yeah, he's definitely interested in it, but he is, I kind of just let him try things and see how it goes. And, I mean, he's not blazing, he's not doing like speed runs or anything like that, but I mean, he's figuring it out, which, I mean, blows my mind, as he is my one child, and it's pretty cool seeing him learn that stuff for sure. But I think, yeah, having the controls be up, down, blah, 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 can make it a little bit easier to understand. But as I said, it's still a hard game for me. I I love the game, but it's hard for me. I know tricks and all that stuff. So I feel like for, a child, it can be still quite challenging. But it's a rewarding challenge kind of thing. And if you have a harder time, you can go exploring and you can find hearts and you can find more rupees, or you can get a bottle, or you can find more fairies, all these things. So you can do more in it to make it a little bit easier. And that's kind of the fun part of it, is that if you're having a hard time, you just go exploring to find more items. You'll get more hearts. Maybe you'll get a different item that will make the next dungeon a little bit easier, and then you're good to go. So the other thing too is that the longer you play in the game, the more items and hearts you get, making the game a little bit easier. Same thing with those tunics. You get that blue tunic, all of a sudden you're taking half damage. That's a huge help for just the general, overworld enemies that you aren't going to get too much damage taken off just from playing. The other cool thing about this too is that it can be played on pretty much anything. Of course, you have the original cart. You can get it on Switch Online. It's on... Oh, I've bought it. How many times have I bought it now? So, yeah, I had it on the Super Nintendo. I had it on the Wii U. I'm pretty sure I had it on the game. No, I did have it on the Game Boy Advance, because there's another version actually on the Game Boy Advance, which you can look it up. It's called Link to the Past and Four Swords or something like that. There's some multiplayer elements to it, but I didn't ever play that because so yeah, you can play it and Switch Online. I mean, that's probably the most available place to play it now for sure. So again, like, definitely a game that you can get into. And as I always say, the Switch Online, it makes it much easier because you have save states where you can, if there's a boss coming up, okay, I'm going to save here quick, and then you can go in and quickly reset. You can do rewind, all that fun stuff. So definitely something that is, I think a kid would be able to play and have a lot of fun with for sure. And now we have come to our conclusion. So I wonder if anyone can guess the relative score of this. Is it going to be low, medium, high? Well, obviously I'm going to tell you. It's a 10 out of 10. It's probably in my top 10, if not top 5 games of all time. I've played it so many times. As I said, I think I'm definitely in the double digits for sure. It's definitely my favorite game of all time. Or sorry, favorite Zelda game of all time for sure. Even with the base game, it's got great replayability. You can, obviously there's the time aspect of it. How long does it take me to beat it? Well, you can go a little bit quicker. You can attempt speed runs with it. There's the randomizers. There's just even challenge runs in my own head where you're like, you know what? I'm not going to collect any hearts. And I've seen that before where people do like 3 heart runs, which I've never done it myself, and I don't know if I could. But again, it gives you a lot of that replayability. And it's really cool. And of course, if you don't get all the items on your first playthrough, you just load up your save and continue. You don't have to start the game all over. It's not like an arcade game or something like that. It has saves, so you can just load it up and continue looking until you, get what you're looking for. So with that, and as I said, the randomizer speedruns, it really has a lot of variety going for it. So if it's a game you're interested in, you could sink hundreds, if not thousands of hours into it, really, right? That's going to do it. That is going to do it. I had a lot of fun. I definitely have missed doing this. I've wanted to do another episode pretty much since the beginning of the year, and I always felt like something else was going on, but I'm really glad I got into it. I am going to stick to the schedule of 2 weeks, so you're going to see... No, you're not going to see me. You're going to hear from me in 2 weeks. I swear. I promise. Unless something catastrophic happens. But nothing's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to be seeing you in 2 weeks. Yeah, that's everything. As I said, had a lot of fun. I really hope everyone enjoyed listening to it and, learning a little bit about Legend of Zelda. And as is our tradition, my dad joke, how do cows stay up to date? They read the moose paper. All right, that's going to do it for me. I, again, really appreciate everyone listening. Make sure you give your loved one hugs and have a great day.